Alright, just going to take a look at some of the folder hierarchies that I've got set up for Hooked on a Feeling. I've got drums and percussion as one top level folder, I guess, and then under that are all the click, intro count, drums, Greg drum track, which is obviously empty. Then there's clapping tracks, which I've set as separate subfolders, I guess, under clapping. Same with the percussion. My cowbell track is under that. It's kind of handy because I can, hide them, get them out of my way if I want, which is quite convenient. The other thing I can do is click the mute button on the master or the top level track, and you can see the little red mute buttons that appear on all the tracks below. So if I want to mute all the clapping, I can do that. If I want to mute Mary Beth's clapping, I can do that. Same with percussion. Now with the percussion, I'm running the cowbell track, so it's on, but the tambourine track is off. But I could mute all of them in one shot, although with two it's not a huge advantage. Guitars, same deal. I can mute out all the guitars or have them on. I'll mute out the track guitars from the backing track and then just deal with mine. The organ track, I might play around with trying to do a MIDI organ sound for the brass. So the horns, I think there's an alto sax in there and maybe a trumpet. It's hard to tell, but I did work that out on the guitar, so I might do an electric guitar for brass track, or I might play around with a MIDI organ track. I don't know. I don't have access to my keyboards, otherwise I could use one of them as a synth and create brass sounds from that and just play it. Now, where you may be running into your issues with the tracks, you just haven't gone backwards in a long time. Alright, so here, I'll do this one too. Alright, so there's all the tracks the way you would normally find them in Reaper. I'm going to make this one the master track, so you click on that, but it will likely affect all the ones below. Anything below gets affected. Oh, it looks like it's remembered what I've done. Yeah, so it knows what I've done in the past. What's the easiest way to do this? Let's make a new project, and we'll insert a bunch of tracks. Okay, I just created a quick, I think there's 10 tracks here. Yeah, there's 10. Just to go through setting up a bit of a hierarchy. So if I click here, it will put everything below as subfolders. But if I click on this one, say I want the rest to not be, I can cycle through whether they're subfolders or in the same level, or they're not at all. So that might be where you're having the difficulty. And if I wanted to subfolder this, it'll do everything, but then I have to say, no, I didn't want that. Just because it's trying to think for you and do all those extra steps. So that would be my guess as to what the problem was. Let's see. Okay, we're back to the Hooked on a Feeling track, or tracks. I'm just going to condense everything a bit. That's good enough. So I was talking to you about the cowbell track and the compressors. So you have inserts and you've got sends. So in the compressor, I've got it set up as an insert. Oh, it's actually 15 to 1. I think I thought I had set it to 10 to 1, but I guess they found 15 to 1 worked a little better. So the best thing to do with a compressor is to play around with it. Let me see if I can, we'll solo out the cowbell track and we'll get along. I'm going to turn the volume of that down. So what you can see here at the top is I've got it set to about almost minus 25 decibels as a threshold. So when I make a hit, sometimes I hit too hard, and so it's compressing down 0.3, 0.7, 0.6, 0.2 decibels each time. So that's actually not too bad. That's pretty close, but there's one here that looks like it might be a little heavier, so we'll see what it compresses. 0.7, so a little more. And this guy here is a little bigger. Let's see, 0.8. So it's taking the sounds and kind of evening them out a little bit, so they're not too loud. You can set how quickly it attacks the sound. I've got a little pre-compression set as well, and then you can play around with how it releases. And the best thing to do is really play around with all the sliders and hear what it does to your sounds, and go with that. The other thing that I do is I'll put a reverb track on certain things. So I've got reverb tracks, and this, I haven't got any tracks from anyone. The track from Mary Beth that I got is the one that I used on Friday for the open mic, and I was sort of lip singing along, pretending it was my voice. But I typically use reverb in the tracks. The cowbell I did play with some reverb on that, and it's just a 100% wet signal, I think I set up in there. No. I forget what I did now. Oh yeah, I used my Brigade course. This is a paid for Universal Audio FX, so I'm using it, and it looks like the stomp box that you would use. So it's very handy as opposed to things like the built-in Reaper ones, which do similar things, but you're playing around with sliders. However, these are like $140 for each one, up to like $300-400 for them. So yeah, that's real quickly the compression, and that's what I would play around with in terms of the tracks you were finding too loud. Not 15 to 1 though, maybe like 3 to 1, 4 to 1, and then play around with all the other settings. Your threshold, typically with vocals, I'm cutting about minus 20 decibels, which seems to be a good spot, and then I might adjust it a hair from there. But that's probably a good starting point, and then just play around with it and see how you do. All right, there you go.